Hi, I'm Warren Sprouse. This is the Bible Forum. It's Sunday night. It's December 20, 2015. That means it's the Sunday night before Christmas. And we're going to be here for the next couple of hours. We do this every Sunday night, whether you like it or not. Everything is recorded. We put everything up on the YouTube page. It then is run on a carousel through the website, thebibleforum.net. You can go to that website. You can see the video screen. You click the little arrow and it'll just run last week's show. If you want more, you can click where it says Ustream. It'll take you to the Ustream page, and there's a whole bunch of them. Or you can go to our YouTube page, or you can just type in on the YouTube page, Bible Forum, and it'll pop up. And you'll be able to find the kinds of things that we talk about. What was the most important thing that happened in this past week? I've got a whole list of things that I would like to share with you, but we don't really have enough time to do it. I mean, was it the budget-busting bill that was put forward by so-called conservative Republicans? Is that the most important thing that happened? Was it the premiere of Star Wars? May the Force be with you. Was it the appearance of zombie nativity in a church? Why somebody would want a zombie nativity is beyond me, but they're popping up. Or how about a Star Wars nativity? We've seen some of those in the news this week. Was it the 60-something man who now identifies as a 6-year-old girl, has been either adopted or is living with a family that accepts him just the way he is? A new wrinkle in our transgenderification. Or how about the Whispering with God movement? What about the 500 ministers, pastors who have taken the free defense course offered by a firearms expert out in the Midwest? Or the Kentucky school district that was censored? Not really. They censored A Charlie Brown Christmas. They took out references, songs and Bible verses and such. How about the Wheaton College professor? Wheaton College is a Bible college, who claims that Jehovah and Allah are the same. He's now on suspension. I expect they'll let him go. Or was it the ISIS fatwa requiring Muslim parents to kill their Down syndrome children? Huh? No, it wasn't any of those things. It was the official launch of the Bible Institute of Charleston. That's right. You can now go to the website, BibleInstituteofCharleston.org, and you can register online for classes. The classes are set to begin January 4, next month, just a couple of weeks away. Check the website, register by clicking the PayPal button or by sending me an email at tolearndoctrine@gmail.com along with a check, and you're in. The videos will start showing up in your inbox along with instructions. And each week you will receive a lesson of at least 40-45 minutes length. The first course is the doctrine of bibliology. That is the doctrine of the Bible. And it has 5 lessons. There will be an essay required, 750 to 1,000-word essay, if you want credit for the course. And there will also be a test. It won't be a hard test. It'll be an open book test. You can use your notes. You can use the books, anything that you might have to hand. And when you finish that, you can register for the next one. The next one is the doctrine of God, theology proper. That's going to be just a tad longer. And there are 10 of these. And we'll go through them over the next 2 years. Now you'll be able to do this at your own speed, so it might take you 6 years, but it will not take you less than 2, because I'm not going to send them to you just because you finish in 5 weeks. If it's a 5-week course or a 6-week course or a 7-week course, it'll probably be a total of 8 or so minimum before you get the next lesson. But every couple of months, unless you slow down, it'll be entirely up to you. But I'm really excited about this. We're starting to put all this together, and every week sitting here staring at a wall and a camera and doing this for you. You're going to find that this is like getting a drink out of a fire hydrant. But that's because I don't have you in the room, and you can't slow me down with questions. And I don't know what your questions might be. And so I'm trying to fill it up with the idea that you've got the stop button. You can stop and start it. You can slow it down. You can, figure things out, work things out, and look things up and go back to it. You can watch it 25 times if that's what you want to do. And you can email me at tolearndoctrine@gmail.com, and I'll answer your questions. So think about it, pray about it, talk to your friends, see what they're interested in. If they'd like to get involved in this, we'd love to have them. I also want you, as I do each week, to be aware of the email that is sent out every week, just to those who are on the email list. And you need to be on the email list. This year, I did something I've really never done before. I wrote a little Christmas card. I wrote a Merry Christmas message to you, my faithful listeners and email receivers. I've gotten several responses back. One gal says, does that mean you're no longer in Wilmington? I said, yeah, that's pretty much it. And I was pleased because I've been doing the show from the Charleston area since mid-July, and still there are folks that don't know that this isn't Wilmington, North Carolina. This is actually Charleston, South Carolina. But it doesn't look any different. Hopefully it looks a little different. I'm thinking it's a little better than it was. The production's a little bit better. But what I tried to do in this Christmas message was to explain what's happening in my life. I have left my church. I resigned my pastorate. It was time for the old guy to move on and let somebody younger come in and get their feet wet and get involved. Sometimes preachers can stay at a church too long. You stay there until everybody's as old as you are, maybe, or perhaps as you get older, people start looking for somebody younger, but they will never say it to you. Things happen, and so it's good to get out earlier than you really want to, because you give somebody a chance to come in while there's still a viable group and things are still happening and nobody's angry about anything, and it's just a good way to do it. My church has been a good church. I've been there for 18 years, and they're a wonderful bunch of people. They actually gave me a severance package in the middle of July that runs until the end of next week. And so I've been receiving a little bit, not full salary or anything, but something to help with the transition until I could find work and I could do some things. And it's given me a tremendous advantage in being able to work on the Bible Forum and do some things, work on the Bible Institute and get that up and going. I've had a chance to travel around and see some folks that I've needed to see. It's just been a lot of things I've been able to do. I've been able to be involved with my family here, and that's a good thing. But I don't think that God is finished with me yet. And I think this show is one of those things, this ministry, the Bible Institute. I want to write some. I'd love to preach and teach around if somebody would have me. There's all sorts of things that I would really like to be able to do. One of the problems with all of that is that I probably am going to have to get a job in order to pay the bills. And the more hours I have to spend at that job, the less time I'm going to have to do with all of this. And then there's my health. I'm not a young guy anymore. I've got a lot of energy. I've got a lot of ideas. I haven't lost my mind. I haven't, become a doddering old fool. Not quite, not yet. And so I would appreciate your prayers in the coming days, months, years, that you would pray for me, that I would find what it is God wants me to do and have the strength and the ability and the willingness to do it, and that you can be a part of that. We have a number of folks who have been with me for years and years and years. Some of those folks have felt the call of God to help out financially, and we appreciate that. We could use a little bit more. You could always use more, but that's something between you and God. You talk to Him about that. For right now, the ministry for the Bible Institute, the ministry to pastors under Rod and staff, right now it's just a newsletter once a month, but it will be more as time goes on. There's stuff I want to write and develop relative to the counseling ministry, trybiblicalcounseling.net. I mean, there's just no end to the kinds of things that can happen. So you pray for me, I pray for you, and I recognize you when I send these things out. I watch you on my list. I don't get a whole lot of people who unsubscribe, so that's a good thing. Occasionally that happens, and that's okay. I understand you can't do this forever. Anyway, we're going to talk tonight about the story of Christmas. I've been writing these blogs. There's 5 of them. I'm up to number 4 this week, and this one is the story of Christmas in the prophets. And we're going to be talking about that. Also going to be talking about the Christmas story itself. There's a listener, a fellow I've known for a number of years, dear friend in Wilmington. I'm trying to, no, I guess not. I was thinking maybe he'd be in the chat room by now, but I don't see him in there. Usually shows up. Got a phone call today from him, as a matter of fact. Didn't leave a message. It may have been that I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be out of town. We're traveling. But anyway, he had some interaction back a few weeks back about this. If you read the Bible stories and the gospel accounts, and then you listen through the Christmas carols, or through the stories that are told, the pictures that you get, whether they're word pictures or whether they're actual images that are put up, so you get some really strange ideas about the timeline. And so I thought it would be helpful to work through the timeline. I put that on the email this week. When did Mary and Joseph travel to Bethlehem? We have a picture of a woman who is about 2 weeks short of delivering a baby. Was that the way it was? Traveling on a donkey 80 miles over hill and dale. Do you really think she did this the last week of her pregnancy or the last month of her pregnancy? It's a good possibility it was some other time, a little earlier perhaps. Where did they stay? The Bible talks about a stable. I put a picture of a stable on the email. Is that the picture in your mind? I'm sure it is. Is that the picture in the Bible? And when did the wise men show up? Did they show up the same time the shepherds showed up? Or did they show up at some point in the future? What time of year was it? Was it really December? Shepherds watching their flocks by night in the cold of December? Late December? Do you really think that happened? And where were these people, Mary and Joseph and the baby Jesus, when the angel told them to flee to Egypt? I've grown up with the understanding that they were still in Bethlehem and that they were told to leave because Herod was about ready to kill all the children 2 years of age and younger. Does that tell you anything about the chronology? We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk a little bit about my blog this week about useful idiots. You know where the phrase came from, right? That was Stalin. The blog is a little different than the discussion. The discussion is stimulated by one of those man-on-the-street deals where somebody took a Bible and they put a cover on it that said it was actually the Quran, and went out on the street and asked people, what am I reading from? And there was a number of Bible verses that were quoted that were just absolutely horrendous, vicious, vile, kind of, just painful things to think about relative to people and things going on. And everybody thought, because it said the Quran, that this was the Quran. The guy took the cover off and said, no, this came right out of the Bible. And they were shocked. Shocked, I tell you. And you would have been shocked too. And so I was motivated to write about all of this and to set this record straight. There are a number of real Christians in the world that don't know what the Bible's about. And probably if somebody like this came along, they would be sucked right into that vortex. And I wouldn't want you to be the person who's doing that, or the person who is having that done to them, I should say. And then there's also periodically, and it came up this week again, people who want desperately to believe that the United States of America was not founded on biblical principles, that the old timers were not steeped in the gospel and God and all the things that make this country what it is today. And so I went back and I found quotes from presidents of the United States and others that I wanted to share with you and maybe provide you with some information that you could use to answer these questions when they come up. Before we do all of that, though, I have a little show and tell for you. This is because I tell you all the time that not everything that goes bump in the night is Santa Claus. I tell you repeatedly that not everybody who says they're a Christian is really a Christian. And I think that largely you know that. But it becomes a real problem when some of those people are your friends. And they're going to a church that's really not a church. But it's a church. It says it's a church. No, it doesn't say it's a church. Usually it says it's something else. But, it is church. And they have all this stuff. And then the music that they bring in and the bands that they bring in to play and some of the things that go on, it's clearly not a godly or a Bible kind of thing. But you think it's church. And I come out and say, this is not real. And you think I'm crazy. Well, there's an organization, they call themselves a church in Australia, called Hillsong. And they've written a lot of music. They're pretty much the foundation of all of this contemporary music that's gone on around here forever. They date back to the 60s and 70s, I think, with this sort of thing, but it's growing and growing. And they have churches in other nations throughout Europe. I think there are some here as well. And I wanted to show you what their Christmas program in London was about. I have it on YouTube, and I'm going to try to, went the wrong way. I'm going to zoom in here so that you can see this and you can actually listen to it. Make sure I get it where the speaker only comes out. The speaker's on this side. It's gonna take me a minute here to I got to get the screen darkened that's in front of me so you don't get a whole lot of what do you call it, shiny stuff in there. And then I've got to hold this up in such a way that you can see it in front of my face. It's going to take a minute, but I want you to watch. This is going to be shocking. You ready for this? Oop. Come on, people. Where are you? I think that's probably more than sufficient. Did you get the picture? Do you understand now how these people operate, the kinds of things they're doing, and how they think? This is a church. Yeah. And these are flapper girls. That's what they were. And it got worse because they had dancers and they brought these men in here with all these other girls, and next thing you know, they were just being thrown around and carrying on, and then a guy sang and they had the bands going and all this stuff, and the people thought this was wonderful. This is what happens when you go to church, right? Doesn't happen in my church. I don't know about you. Anyway, I'm going to stop this recording so that I can give it a name and then start a new one so that we can start talking about some things here, because I want to talk to you about the story of Christmas in the prophets. Stay with me.